This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, and welcome to another grand rambling of mine. This week I want to talk about a couple of remasters that are on the way, and I may well drift off into other realms of discussion, you know what I'm like. However, the main reason for this vlog is to discuss two remasters that I'm really excited for. One I'm really excited for, and the other one I'm kind of really excited for. But they both look glorious, and I will start with the most exciting of the two. Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, or the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, if we're going to be very precise about it, is being remastered. And we are able to get that in October, and I have been looking for a monumental excuse to get back into that world. I played the ass off that game, and I know people that played the ass off it a lot more than I did, and I put I think it was well in excess of 100 hours, and that was a massive amount for me. I know a lot of other people might have spent more on the original. It's just, the thing with, I mean, the very first Elder Scroll games that has captured me that way is Skyrim. I dabbled in the one before, but only after I'd played Skyrim, so it didn't really measure up to any great extent. It didn't have the feel or the vibe or the music or all of the dragons or all of the amazing things that Skyrim's combination of everything was just awesome, from the music to the world to the dragons to the people to the voices they gave the people. Everything just clicked. It was absolutely monumental. It was such a good game. And I think that's probably a massive reason as to why they're not rushing in to give us another Elder Scrolls game as yet. They've got big projects on the go anyway, and we're not going to see another Elder Scrolls for years. They're not even working on one at the minute, but they will. I mean, they have said they will do it, but they don't want to be a two-trick pony. They don't want to be Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. So it will be interesting to see. I think probably in a couple of years' time we might hear whispers of them starting to work on it, but it's a way off yet. So in the meantime, they're being so kind as to give us the remaster of Skyrim, which I think has come off the tail end probably of the PC version, which was slightly more uber anyway. And they are also releasing all the mods as well with the console versions. So I'm not a big fan of mods. I kind of like playing a game the way it's meant to be played. So, but if you're into that kind of thing, then they're all coming with it. And it'll come with all of the DLC and everything. It's everything on one disc, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's just the game. If I look at Fallout, Fallout 4, well, Fallout 3, I didn't expect to like, and I tried to play it a couple of times, couldn't get into it, and one day I played it, and I just got so caught up in it that I spent probably in excess of about 80 hours on it, but it was kind of an odd thing now that I'm looking at Fallout 4. Now that I'm trying to get the same vibe going in Fallout 4, and I just can't get it going, and I don't know why. I've tried to play the game several times now, and I just cannot soak myself in that world. And I know that I am far more passionate about worlds of the past than I am of worlds of the future. I just never quite feel like there's always some mysterious element missing when I look at a future world. Like, we never seem to get the myths and legends that we get if we look backwards than we do if we go forwards. And to me, mutated creatures aren't the same as dragons or, you know, like wandering through Skyrim, for example, you can walk around the mountain just looking for something to hunt or something to, you know, gather or whatever. You're just trying to collect resources and search the world. And you just stumble across these incredible temples, hidden caves, areas, and you go into these places and you're in there for bloody hours. You don't come out again for ages. There's so much to do in them. And it's this world of awe and wonder that just for me isn't captured in a futuristic game. So I get that Fallout is kind of a futuristic Skyrim, but it just doesn't click the same way that Skyrim did. And it is really, for me, it's down to that. Like, my imagination runs rampant the minute I end up in a situation like that where there's a temple or a cave or some ruin that hasn't been touched for thousands of years, and you get to go in there and see what's in there and what mysteries it holds, and there's usually puzzles to figure out and keys to use. You might get in there and not be able to do it because you don't have the key that is meant to do the quest that's in there, so you'll come back to it later, but you're still left with this mystery. And then you go off to do 100 other things and then go, oh, that might be the key to do something in that cave. And I mean, it's just sublime to me. I mean, it's brilliant. And okay, you can always look at Skyrim's battle system and say, well, that could be more exciting, or it could be better, or it could be... But I think when you're talking about doing battle systems in first person, it's particularly hard to have people flying around all over the place. I mean, I know you can play it in third person, but it's really meant to be fought in first person, in my opinion. And if I'm wandering the world, I tend to go into third person from time to time, especially in tight areas. If I'm collecting resources from things, I tend to move back into first, and so on. So it's kind of a helpful thing rather than it is meant to be first or meant to be third. But it's just, yeah, I mean, the battle system, I think for me, is probably just about right. I don't think they could do an awful lot more with it. Using the bow, I always go with bows and swords, and I always go with armor because I'm just rubbish at being a mage. I always feel like I should have some kind of uber armor or something, but I know that the magic is what you need to use to put your shields up, but I just find it really difficult. So looking at the images, and hopefully by the time I edit all this together, I'll be able to find some footage of Skyrim remastered for you to put behind this, me chin wagging. If not, it's just my pretty face. But I will try and find some for you, as I will with the next topic I'm about to talk about. But it looks... I mean, when you look at the remastered images, they just look so clear and crystal. Everything's much richer, as you'd expect. They've done a really good job of making it look even better than it did before, and using the power of the new systems. I mean, I obviously haven't rebuilt it. I mean, it's not a next-gen game, but it has used the power of new gen in order to get the most out of what they'd already created. And they put a new paint job on top of it, you know, so all of the images and things that they use in the game are all better versions of those little images, so you're getting much crisper, clearer clarity in everything that you look at. I don't know how much work they'll have done on the character models. That's what I'm interested to see. Is it just the world that's got the paint job, or is it the people as well? Because they were, you know, I think if you go back and play it now, although it's great, the people are really what... Not let it down's a bit strong, but it's dated. You can see that there was only so much they could do with those people wandering around in that world. But the other thing with new gen is you've got the power to show things at a distance that you didn't have with last gen, which was when you looked at things from a distance in old gen, it was usually until you got closer to the proximity of what it was. Generally speaking, probably wasn't properly preloaded. It's probably an image that gets preloaded as you walk towards it. So you get kind of an idea of what it is you're moving towards, but it's not till you get closer to it that you see things like people walking about, for example. If you're looking at, say, from a mountain down on a town, in old gen, there was a high likelihood you wouldn't see anybody walking around. You would just see the town from a distance. Whereas with new gen, they've got the power to add those elements where you could actually see from a distance people walking around the town and so on. So I'm wondering if those sort of elements have been added in, or whether that's just something that has to be built, you know, purposefully for new gen and using the power of it. If it wasn't there in the first place, there's a high likelihood that they haven't gone out of their way to do it. But it does look like they've given us a really strong, fresh version of it, and I can't wait. The excuse to get stuck back in is just incredible, and of course with it being a new gen version, a remaster, you get all the trophies to go for again, so you've got that excuse to play it over and over again until you get all of that. So yeah, I'm really excited about that coming, and yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm more excited for that than I was for Fallout 4, and most definitely playing Fallout 4. I mean, I know Fallout 4 is a great game and everything. It's not that. It's just me. It's just at some point I will get stuck into that game and I'll enjoy it, and that's fine. But it just doesn't hold the richness and everything that Skyrim does. So I'm curious to see just how good the dragons and everything look as well, just how much of an upgrade they've got. I don't think they'll have changed anything mechanics-wise. Can't see that at all. I think people will want to play the game they love and remember. So there you are. So yeah, so Skyrim, dying to play it. And I haven't got the exact date, actually. That's a bit silly, isn't it? If I'm going to do a vlog, you think I'd go and get the exact date for you. By the time I edit all this together, I'll whiz it up on the screen for you. Like I do when I forget things. I just have a whizzy bit of blue text that flies up on the screen and lets you know what I forgot to say. So I will let you know what the date is. And as I say, hopefully you will have seen a bit of the footage, if I've managed to grab it from somewhere on Tinterweb. Now, the other one I wanted to talk about was Bioshock Remastered. And now that it comes to it, I might talk about a third one, because there was a little rumour that I heard today as well, which looks quite exciting. I think it came out of Gamescom. So Bioshock was interesting. I didn't play Bioshock until it had been out for ages, and it was because for a long, long time I only played specific games, and I really own a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I only really played sort of footy games. Like I would get FIFA and stuff, and I would play that, and that would be kind of my big game outside of playing games with my son, like Zelda and all these sorts of things on the N64 way back when. So there were little games that were kind of, I mean, I played, like most people, I had a Mega Drive and I played Sonic and all that sort of stuff. But I wasn't by any stretch of the imagination a constant gamer, someone that bought games monthly and played and had a big library. So it really was like when my mates came around and when I wanted to play, I played footy. And then, things developed as life went on and I got right into it and so on. But when the 360 came along, it was really to play with my son online because I was away in a different place than he was. So it was a great way of us spending lots of time together and chatting. So that was all about Gears of War and all this sorts of stuff. So as time progressed after that, I then got really heavily into... I ended up buying a load of games for the 360 sort of dead cheap because I'd kind of hit them all quite late in the day. And then I got a PS3, and that was where I got all of the sorts of games that I would never really have touched on the Xbox 360, and that's when my gaming really kind of got really heavy. And at the same time, I quit smoking, and it was a great way of just keeping me occupied. So I was getting really into games just so I could not think about going out for a smoke. And it worked. 5 years clean. No longer an addict. And yeah, so it wasn't until I got the PS3 that I got Bioshock, and Bioshock I don't think was released for the PS3 until a year after the Xbox 360. And they did a lot of modification before they released the PS3 one, and it did play better on the PS3. It was much crisper. So it was really impressive by the time I got it, because I think it may well have been the Game of the Year edition, or it was a dual pack anyway. It came with Bioshock 1 and 2. And that game, I loved that game. The first one was just amazing. I got really into it. And I can't remember how many hours I put into it, but it is, you can wander about a little bit, but you are what you are. You're on a pretty linear path. But it's such a fantastic dark vibe. It was so clever. This whole, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea vibe that they gave it, it was just so clever to do. And all of that sort of almost old technology, but working in a much more modern way than it should, was just genius. And being under the ocean was fantastic. I mean, it was just the vibe. I mean, it was so dark, it was so spooky. It was like, what, when you first arrive in that city under the sea, you just like rapture, as it's called. It's like, what? Because like the minute your pod kind of gets there, it's still shut, isn't it? And this thing starts clawing at it and trying to get in, trying to kill you and stuff. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. And then, of course, you've got the guy helping you on the radio at that point. But it's just this really dark vibe. Immediately you get thrown into this world that's just completely alien to you. And every time you get glass and you look outside, there's like a whale swimming around, I mean, it's just brilliant. It was so good. And they could have just, put an average gameplay on top of that, but they didn't. They put a fantastic battle element on top of it as well. So there was, all the powers to get and all the weapons and everything. It was really, really well done, and I can't. It was I didn't ever get into Bioshock 2, and in fact I don't even think I've started Bioshock 2, and it was on that disc, and I think the reason I didn't start it was because my mate had already told me that you're a big daddy in it, I think, and you have to sort of save the what are the little girls called? I can't remember now, but that you have to save the little girls, and the vibe of that didn't really catch my. I was like, not so fussed about it. But it is supposed to be good, actually. It's not as good as the first one, but it did get a good review. So this might be my excuse to play it when it comes, because the remastered pack for Bioshock comes with Bioshock 1, Bioshock 2, and Bioshock Infinite, which is the last one was. It was a massive, massive gamble to take everything from under the ocean to into the sky. And did I just call it Bioshock Infinite? It's not called. Is it called Bioshock Infinite? Whatever the new one's called, I keep forgetting the bloody name of it. And I've played it as well. I finished it, absolutely loved it. And it was anyway, whatever the hell it's called. It was a really, really big gamble to take things into the sky instead of under the ocean, because that is a completely different vibe, and it is a bigger task to make a world that is in such a beautiful place be dark, and be like, and by meaning that I mean the undertone of the world be dark, not the sky, because you're constantly running around in the beautiful sunshine. So it was a massive ask for them to do it, but you could see that they had I mean, there's so many undertones to that game. There's so many sort of political undertones in that game that, I mean, you need to play it to kind of get the vibe of it, as to, what things look like on the surface compared to what things are actually happening underneath everything and hidden in behind doors, and the way people are being treated and all sorts of stuff. So there was a lot of undertones to that game that the developers were really clever with, and they got the darkness bob on. I mean, I understand why some people were disappointed that it wasn't in Rapture or it wasn't Under the Sea in Another City, but for me, they had done it already. They did it with the first one, they'd done it with 2, and I don't know that they felt like they could do any more with that world. Otherwise, they're just giving you the same thing over and over again, and I don't think that's the sort of company they were. And I say were because I believe there will be more Bioshocks in the future, but it won't be the same people making it, because they disbanded the company and someone else has taken the rights to it. So when anything happens, it won't be the same people. So yeah, so it comes with all 3 in the pack. From what I'm hearing, again, I'll try and find footage, so by the time you see this, hopefully you'll see it. And from what I was reading today online, they were saying that the first one looks absolutely glorious with its new paint job, as does the second one. And the third one kind of looked amazing anyway, but it does get that extra crispness from the paint job as well. So, they do look really impressive as a set. So I'm really excited for those. Again, not sure what the release date for them is. If I can find it before I post this up again, I whiz it on the screen. Here. About there. And let you know what the date is. The other one that popped into my head, actually, as I was talking to you all, because my brain, I'm a man, so therefore I can multitask. We all know that's a lie. Is Mass Effect. There is a massive rumour going around that Mass Effect team are strongly talking about releasing the Mass Effect Trilogy as a remaster. And for me, that is a massive... I always fancied them to do that, to be honest, because if you're going to carry on... Like most of these things, if you're going to carry on into the following generation of console, it's a massive, massive deal to put that together. Because if people, all right, if there will be people that haven't played the first ones. They've been over a massive space of time. So if you put them all together in a remastered package and stick them on the new gen, anyone who hasn't played it will play those 3 as well and purchase them. So it's a big, opportunity to get sales through the door if you've got another one coming, just like Uncharted did with 1, 2, and 3 before 4 came out. So you give people the opportunity to play the run-up to that. And I know it's a separate kind of thing that's going to go on in Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda, but it's still going to be connected somehow. Well, it is. It's in that world. It's in that universe. It's just, it's going to be in a different area of space, I believe. But it will have connections somehow to the originals. We still don't know, I don't think, who the protagonist is going to be and that sort of thing. But it's going to be really interesting to see how that game pans out. But yeah, I mean, I'd be really excited to play Mass Effects again. I probably wouldn't spend too much time on them, but I wouldn't mind running through them again if they made them look fantastic. I've said this in previous vlogs, I'm a bit weird, and Mass Effect 1 is actually my favourite, solely because it is the one that is actually an RPG, a proper RPG. The others, as they progressed, became more action games than they were RPG games, and I kind of liked the fact that it was an RPG in space. But I believe a lot of that is coming back in the Andromeda one, from what whispers I'm hearing. And I think from what I'm hearing, they're bringing the I've forgotten what it's called, the buggy that went onto the planets back and all this sort of stuff. So far more investigating on planets and all this sort of stuff rather than just scanning them and all this malarkey. So it looks like it will be a much bigger world for us again. So that's not to say I didn't like the other two. It's just that as the time went on, I kind of got disappointed that it wasn't more of an RPG and it was just an action game. But they were still great. You know, it was still great fun to play. So yeah, so I've an opportunity to play those again for and get some extra trophies on remastered copy. Absolutely, I would throw some money at that. But I'd probably, as long as it's not a stupid price. Price-wise, I've seen Skyrim originally saw it about 50 quid, and I was like, well, that's a bit heavy. But now that I've looked on Amazon yesterday, they're down to £35 now, which is pretty good considering you're getting all of the DLC and all of the mods and all that sort of stuff. Everything on one disc, so I think that's pretty reasonable. But if you wait off, there's no doubt that the prices for these things will come down if you don't get them at launch. So there you are. It's a bit of a remaster rambling today. I'm sure there's far more. I mean, I think as time goes on, we'll see less and less of these remasters, but only in the case, I think, if... I mean, there's been a few that have just popped out of nowhere. You know, like, you just didn't expect them to happen. Devil May Cry was one, and there was another one that was a bit weird that just sort of appeared. What was it? And I didn't even realise it had happened. I've never played it. It was a bit like Infamous, but not Infamous, and I've forgotten the name of it. It may come back to me. But they just kind of appeared on PS4. I don't know if they were remastered or whether they just played on PS4 or something. But so yeah, I think the more we go on with these consoles, the more it'll be, if they're going to make more of that trilogy or whatever, or franchise, they may decide to do it. But I don't know that any companies will do it for the sake of it now. They've probably got far bigger things to be thinking about than remastering. But I'd love to see Dead Space Trilogy. Well, I say Dead Space Trilogy remastered. I'd take the first two anyway. I mean, if the third one's there, fine, give it to me. But I'd certainly love to have Dead Space 1 and 2 on a remastered version on the PS4 for sure. And if not, then at least add Dead Space 2 to the Xbox One backward compatibility list, because Dead Space 1's on there. And Dead Space 2 isn't, so it'd be nice to see that appear. But it'd be great to see a remaster of those. I'd love to get those on the new gen with a bit of a paint job on. I mean, they look fantastic anyway, to be fair. Dead Space always looked great, so, you know. But I'd love to have them. But my favourite, I think they were my first maxed out game points on the Xbox and my first trophies on the platinums on the PlayStation 3. So there you are. Yes, a remaster rambling while I was enjoying my first Miller of a Friday evening. I hope your Fridays go in the same direction as mine and you have a little tipple and a bit of a chill out at the end of the week. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you as it always is in this rambling, and I shall see you all next time. Take it easy, folks. Bye.